with a 30-year-old man that told me on a first date that he didn't like my TikToks. I hope he sees this. This one's for you. We were like kind of arguing over text and he was like, what, are you gonna make a TikTok about me? And I said that you're not relevant enough, but here I am. So this is kind of embarrassing, but it's also kind of funny and like I'm never gonna talk to him again. This man was just like weird from the start. Like he would text me like once a week and it was always like after 8 o'clock. The first time we were supposed to go out, he just like never said anything. Like he bailed, but he never was like, oh, I can't make it. So I should have just like not gone out after that. But on a coffee date, honestly, it was fine. Like I didn't really get much talking in, but I didn't really care. Like I'd rather listen than talk about myself. So that was when he told me he looked me up on TikTok and he didn't like how I made TikToks about dates. Hopefully he's not too angry about this, but then we planned a second date, which we never went on. This is where like the drama starts happening. He was like, okay, do you want to go out on Wednesday? I'm like, yeah, sure. It's like Wednesday at 4 o'clock. I haven't heard from him in like a week. Finally texted him like, what's the plan? He's like, oh my God, so sorry. I got stuck at work. I meant to text you. Like, I'm getting sick. Can we do another day? Or he said, can we do the weekend? I don't know why I even gave this man a second chance. So I say, I can do next week. Nothing. I think it's like Saturday. I was like, yeah, see ya. Like, I'm not interested. And of course, he answers the next minute. A long thing. He's like pissed off at me for saying that. He's like, what? I'm so confused. Like, what happened? I'm like, I'm not interested. I'm not trying to get into a relationship with someone that texts me once a week. Mind you, this man was 30, really attractive, which is why I guess I was giving him so many chances. But like, stuff like this just makes you not attractive. He's like, are you gonna make a TikTok about me? Here I am. Yes, you're seeing this. I tried to block you, but I can't find you on TikTok. So he's like, you should go date a 23-year-old. I'm like, you're 30 and single, so, and you're trying to date me. Seems like the older than 30 men that I've been with are more immature than me and like worse than guys my age. So then he kind of ended that conversation like friendly, like saying how I'm like so hot. And then I texted him like a week later to be the nicer, bigger person. And I was like, hope everything is going well. He responded 24 hours later, pretty much. It's like, thanks, sorry, I've been so busy. Like, hope everything's good with you. And then I never answered. The next night at 2:30 in the morning, he's like, all right then. I was like, oh, was that keeping you up at night? And he's like, I won't let you get under my skin. I'm like, okay, buddy. He was like telling me he was never gonna text me again. I'm like, I don't give a fuck. I followed him on Instagram, deleted his number. I literally don't even know what his last name is to even find him on TikTok. This is your sign to not let things slide in the beginning, because I should have just taken like the first interaction and not give him a chance. Like,
ready with me while I tell you my horrific dating story with an influencer. Me and said influencer met one weekend in Vegas. We were there for an A-list celebrity's private concert weekend. So my friend and I, we met this guy and we met his entire team and crew and ended up hanging out with them all weekend and got to know them super well. They were so fun. We had a great time. There were honestly no complaints about the weekend. So me and this guy, we really hit it off and we kept in touch. We ended up planning out a like 4-day trip for me to go visit him in LA because that's where he lived. Super excited for it because we had such a great time when we met in Vegas. So we planned out this 4-day trip. The time comes, I'm flying out, keep in mind, flying cross country. The plans were kind of all up in the air. So I didn't know if he was picking me up from the airport. I didn't know if I was Ubering to his house. I end up landing and I text him and I'm like, hey, what do you want to do? Like, should I call an Uber? Are you coming to get me? And he says, can you call an Uber? I still have a lot of work I need to finish. Which is like fine. Like I know his job is crazy and busy and I didn't think much of it at the time. So I was like, yeah, that's fine. Like, let me just call an Uber. I walk into his house, I bring my luggage in and I realize next to his room, there is an empty room because he used to have a roommate. His room was pretty small. My luggage was big because I packed a lot. And I was also going to a different part of California after his place, so I had to pack a lot. But I said to him, hey, since this room's empty, like, do you want me to put my stuff in it so it doesn't take up all the space in your room? And he was like, no, like, put it in my room. Put the luggage in my room and all your stuff. And I was like, okay. Like, I was just offering that so all my shit wasn't in his way. So that was a little bit like, I don't know, weird. Before dinner, we decided to take like the scenic route, I guess, and we ended up walking on the cliffside. Opposite of the cliffside were these beautiful houses, like ginormous houses that were stunning. The view was so stunning. We were right on the ocean. At this point, I'm just trying to like make conversation. And I think I said something about one of these huge houses where I was like, doesn't it make you wonder like what these people do for a living? Like, this house is insane. And he looks at me and goes, I never think about that kind of stuff. I just like chuckled and I was like, oh, okay. Like, you know, the type of people who, when you say something, you feel like they're immediately judging you. This is how I felt the entire time I was there. Fast forward to the next day. So the next day comes and we're trying to figure out what we want to do for the day. And he suggested going on a few different hikes. And I was like, yeah, that sounds fun. Let's do that. Whatever. The hikes ended up probably being like at least a couple hours, like running into mid-afternoon, late afternoon. And before we went on the hike, he was like grabbing stuff from the fridge, grabbing food. And in my head, I'm thinking he's probably packing us like a picnic or like food to eat, you know, on the hike or on the beach we were going to after. We finished our hikes, and this last hike was right by the beach, so we decided to walk down to the beach and sit on the beach and just chill. This is where things took a turn for the worse, and I was like, who is this man? So at this point, I'm like hungry. We just did like at least 3 hikes. It was so hot, and it's like late afternoon, which, keep in mind, back home it was like dinner time for me. He pulls out bags of ground meat, chicken, protein, and just starts eating them. Just food for him and just meat. Didn't even say anything to me. Didn't look at me. Wasn't fazed. Just started eating his meat. There were other things that I just can't remember at this point that were adding up and just making me feel so like icky and uncomfortable, but I was like, you know what, push through it, like whatever. Next morning comes and he's like, I need to go to the gym. He goes to the Equinox, which is like, what, $300 a month? So I was like, that's fine, like I'll go with you, you know, I'll walk on the treadmill, do whatever. I had never been to an Equinox before. So we get there and there's like multiple floors to the Equinox. He's like, all right, I'm just going to head upstairs with my buddy and do a quick workout. And I was like, okay, so you're meeting someone here and leaving me to just figure out what I want to do, figure out where I am. The gym is huge. I was like, okay, I'll be on the treadmill. An hour and a half goes by. Don't see him, don't hear from him. I'm like, did he leave me here? Like, where is he at and what is he doing? Walk around the Equinox trying to find this man, and I finally found him upstairs in a corner with this guy. And he's like, oh, we're just, you know, finishing our workout here. You can like stretch in the corner. I was like, okay, let me stretch in the corner. It was so weird. Like literally like a 2-hour workout where he just left me by myself in a gym I'd never been in, a huge gym, to go get a quick pump with his buddy. At this point, I'm just like not feeling the vibes at all. I just want to like leave. Like I'm not having any fun. I start to freak out a little bit. So once we get home, we get showered, we get changed. I'm like, hey, do you think we could swing by Air One so I can get a smoothie?
Get ready with me while I tell you some crazy experiences I have from being a zipline guide for 3 years. Okay, this story is a little bit shorter, but it's still very interesting. So this took place my first year. I was like probably a month working into this job. I was 17, which is important for the story, okay? And when I was 17, I looked 15, and like I just always look younger than I am. I don't think I look like I'm 20, but that could just be me. I always get told I look like I'm younger, and whatever. That's not a big deal, but when I was 17, I looked way younger, and this particular day, I wore 2 high ponies and a skirt to work with my polo, and I just looked young as fuck, okay? Okay, and since I was 17, I could only work the front desk until I turned 18. So I'm working the front desk, and this guy comes in from his tour, right? And he gets de-geared and just comes straight towards the desk. Also, don't judge how I put my makeup on. So this guy comes up to me, and he was older, okay? He was probably in his 60s, maybe 70s. He was older, okay? And I was like, hi, how was your tour? Guys, this man, he looked at me and he was like, it was fine. Like, bro, you just went ziplining. Be for real. So then I'm like just trying to keep the mood up, and I'm like, because he was really grumpy, and I was like, well, I just uploaded all your photos onto the tablets over there. Like, feel free to go take a look. No one could guess what this man said next to me. This guy looks me up and down, okay? Because I'm just standing there like, okay? He looks me up and down, and he goes, are photos of you included on there? What? What? Me? Like, boy, I know I don't look like I'm fucking over the age of 18 right now. I know you're not talking about me. There was probably like 10 seconds of silence before I said anything, because I just did not know what to do. So I just stared at him like, why would you say that? So after staring at this guy, I was like, it's just gonna be photos of you and your guides today. Dude, this guy looked at me. He was like, then I don't want them. And he like just walked straight out of the building. Meanwhile, his entire family was looking at the photos. He just walked out. He never came back in. And I was like, okay. So after this guy had left, I like slowly backed into the office, because here's the front desk. There's a door right here, and it was the office. I walked in there and I told my boss what happened, and she was just like, nothing we can do about it. Like, that stuff just happens sometimes. No, I think this man needs to get his computer checked. Like, that's not okay. Anyways, that one was kind of boring. I have other stories. I just have places to be right now. So let me know if you want more.
Good morning. I'm going to give you a little story time that absolutely nobody asked me for on the time that I was 14 or 15 and went and saw my birth giver under a bridge. So I was in high school, and my dad sent me a picture of a homeless lady on the side of the road with a sign. And I didn't recognize who it was, so I didn't think he meant to send that to me. Well, I get home that day, and he's like, did you not get that picture I sent you? I was like, yeah. I didn't think he meant to send that to me. He was like, yeah, do you not know who that is? I was like, no. He was like, and said her name, my birth giver. And at the time, I really wanted to have her in my life. I had always, like, growing up, there was one time I was like 7 years old, and she called on my birthday, one birthday after losing custody of me. And on that birthday, she promised that she would call me every year on my birthday. Never again did she call me on my birthday, but I always stayed hopeful. I would not want to go anywhere on my actual birthday. Like, if my party fell on that day, I would just have friends over at the house, and that house phone would be right beside me that entire time, waiting on that phone call that I never got. But anyway, so at this time, I'm still like very excited and hopeful. I was like, oh my gosh, Dad, can we go see her? And at the time, my grandmother was in the hospital, not too far from where he saw her under a bridge at. So he took me that day, and so we drove up and to the bridge that he saw her at, and she was not there. And I was like, can we please drive around? Like, she's got to be around here somewhere. And she was a few blocks over, or not even a few, like a block or two over from that bridge, walking with my sister's dad, eating a sandwich. And so we kind of passed her a little bit and slowed down and waited on her to catch up. Well, I rolled my window down, and she saw me, and I was like, roll my window down. Hey. I was so scared, excited, nervous, like so many emotions. I was young. And I also was going to give her $5 for my allowance. But anyways, off topic. So I was like, hey. She said, hey. I said, do you know who I am? She said, yeah, you're Michelle, right? Which, by the way, my name is Michelle. I go by Shay on here. Everybody really calls me Shay. But if I spelt it out on here, it would get butchered so bad. Like, y'all would be like, Makia? So anyways, she was like, yeah, you're Michelle, right? And I was like, yeah. She said, and then she walks up to the window, puts her hand on the window. She stank so bad. And she was like, what are you doing out here? And I was like, oh, I'm just coming to see my grandmother. I said, my grandmother's in the hospital. We're out here to see her. And she was like, okay, have fun. Bye. And walked off. And in her defense, like, I can see how that was very embarrassing. And also, my dad he used to work for the same company for a long time. Like, she knew he worked for that company. So she knew that we were there for her. She saw his truck earlier, and then her daughter pops up later that day. So she knew. I can see how that's embarrassing. I did not give her the money. It was very just not at all what I expected. But honestly, what other way would I have gone, you know? And my dad, to this day, feels bad. He apologized so many times, saying, like, I'm so sorry, that day broke my heart for you. And I was like, no, I have no regrets. I'm so glad you did that. That was part of my closure. And that was the first closure I got. And then the second, that was 14, 15. And then when I was 18 or 19, she messaged me on Facebook, and we talked a little bit and video chatted, and she was the same lying piece of shit she'd always been. So that was the last time I had talked to her, and ever since then, I don't want anything to do with her or her family. None of them besides my sister. So they can go on somewhere. But that's it. That's the story time. Hope y'all enjoyed my little therapy session with y'all. Love you. Bye.
Story time on why I'm actually terrified of basements and why I will literally not go down there unless like my clients are there or someone else is there with me. I posted a TikTok talking about like basements and how they're scary as like a real estate agent not too long ago, and I had a couple people ask for a story time on it. I think there was like 2 or 3 people that asked for a story time, but you know I'm gonna give them a story time. I've actually always wanted to give it a story time, but I never knew if like enough people would actually care to hear it, so I never told it. But in my opinion, I think it's like kind of a crazy story, so let's get into it. This happened the summer of 2024. It was just me and my client. I just had one client, like one guy who was buying a house. Like, it wasn't like a couple or a family, it was just one single guy. Before I get into the story, I do want to preface that this has nothing to do with my client. It was not him at all. He was amazing. It wasn't anything he did or said. I loved working with him. It was actually something that we experienced together, so we kind of like trauma bonded over it because it was terrifying. Getting back into the story, we were planning on looking at a couple homes. I think we had around 5 homes set to see that day. A pretty gloomy day, and it did start to rain on us. We had 5 homes set to see, and the day of the showing, I got a text from the listing agent for the first home that they had received an offer. So if my client wanted to put in an offer, like, now would be a good time after we see it. So I let my client know. I told him, I'm like, hey, there is an offer on the first property. Do you still want to see it? Because knowing that might make him kind of back off or be like, yeah, you know what, like, that's just going to be a waste of our time, and I don't want to be in a multiple offer situation, so let's just pull it off the list. Initially pulled it off the list, but then I believe the listing agent reached back out and those clients were not going to submit a contract, or it was something where the contract got delayed. It was something of that sort. I don't really remember. Well, of course, I went back to my client, kind of told him the situation, updated him on everything, and he was like, yeah, like, let's still see it then if we're not going to be in a multiple offer situation. Ended up adding that home back to the list. It was back at the first home that we were going to see that day. This part sounds very irrelevant, but you'll kind of understand more towards the end. Fast forward, it's now time to go do the showings. We go see that first home that we had set to see. We had 5 homes on the list. The first home, there was nothing crazy special about it. It was a beautiful home, don't get me wrong, but we were just kind of like, okay, like, this is great, on to the next. Driving over to the second one, and this was a little bit more of a drive, and during that drive, it did start to rain on us pretty bad. When we got to the second home, we were like running to the front door because we didn't want to get rained on. The second home is where everything takes place. Second home that we were set to see was an older home, and in the listing photos, it looked great. Like, it looked like it was in great condition, but it was like one of those older homes that had like still the very colorful carpet, like the textured wallpaper, colorful wallpaper, all that type of stuff. In the listing photos, everything looked completely fine, so we were like really excited to see it. But the second that we walked in, it was just dark and gloomy. Nonetheless, the weather on top of that just made it 10 times worse. None of the lights were working, and it looked nothing like the photos. It's kind of a picture of what the layout looked like. You walk into the front door, you have like your little like mudroom area, and then you go around and you have a little step up and you have like a living room, and then you go down, you have a little dining room, and then it goes into the next room, which is the kitchen, and then the kitchen has another like kitchen table dining room area, and then it wraps back around to the front door, if that makes sense. So it's like one big circle on the main level, and then right as you walk in on that front door, you have stairs that go up, and then if you go this way instead of this way, you'll have the stairs that go down, but it's a door that you have to open, if that makes sense. Basically just like one big loop on the main level. So we walk into the front door, we go left, we walk up that little stair, and we're just seeing like all this random furniture laid out. We're seeing kind of candles, random pictures, lots of dust. There's like one light that worked in the kitchen, and that was it. We're making our way around the main level, and so we come around all the way to the kitchen, and then we get to that basement door. So we open up the door and we decide to go downstairs, and I was the first one to walk downstairs with my client behind me. Again, none of the lights were working, so it just kind of made everything a little bit more creepy. As we're walking down the stairs, we come down, like all we can see when we open that door is just the flight of stairs, and we can see a little bit of the carpet. So we walk all the way down, and like what we saw was literally insane. Like both of our stomachs just completely dropped. Get down to the bottom of the stairs, and my client and I were literally in shock. Like we had nothing to say. We kind of just stood there for a second and like looked around, and we didn't even say like a word to each other because we were so shocked. But so as soon as you get down to the bottom of the stairs, we look to our left, and there's this huge white sheet that's draped up like this, and then there was red stains all over. I don't know if TikTok's gonna like flag my video, so I'm not gonna say the word, but you guys can probably pick up what I'm saying. So there was like red stains all over the white sheet, and then there was this rope that was tied in a very certain way, and I think you guys can kind of get where I'm picking up, and it was just on the floor with the red stains and the white sheet. And so we were like, okay. Look to our left, that's what we saw. We looked to our right, and there's this huge camera just like filming it, and like obviously it wasn't rolling or anything, but it was like faced that way as if it were to film it. And we were literally in distraught. We were like, okay, like let's get out of here. Mind you, there was way more to the basement, and obviously we did not go tour it because we were already so freaked out. So as soon as you get down to that main room where we just saw everything, there was this whole dark hallway that went back, and obviously we did not go down that because we were like, where are we? What is going on? We quickly make our way back up to the main level, and as we made our way up to the main level, we kind of did like one last loop around, which I don't know why, but everything started to make a lot more sense because in the main level there was like older pictures, candles. In that main living room there were like 2 benches and then like a drape going like this, and it literally looked like a freaking seance. Like it looked like some sort of ritual. Like it was just so freaky, and everything was just like coming together. And so we were like, what the hell did we just walk into? Like this is absolutely terrifying. I tried to finish this in part 1, so go to part 2 for the rest of the story. Here's part 2 of why I'm actually terrified of going into basements, and why I literally feel like I'm traumatized and will not go down there unless someone else is with me. Continuing the story, we walked back up, everything was starting to come together, everything was getting way more creepy, and we immediately leave the house. I obviously felt so bad for my client because I just was like I didn't know that was going to be down there. I had no idea. I was just as freaked out as he was. And so I asked him, I'm like, do you still want to go look at the rest of the homes? Like we still had 3 homes we were supposed to see. And so I felt bad. I didn't know like if he needed to like be like, okay, like I need to take a step back. And after that, I for sure thought like, okay, he's never looking at another house with me because like this is actually terrifying. Anyways, he decides that he wants to look at the rest of the homes. And so on our way to the 3rd one, we had again like a 15-minute drive. I was like spamming the hell out of the listing agent because I was like trying to get a hold of him to figure out if I actually needed to call the cops, like because I didn't know if that was like something that the sellers had like set up for something. I had no idea. Like I honestly didn't know what I was supposed to do in that scenario. So I'm like trying to get a hold of him to see like if he knew that that was going on in the house, and to see like what I need to do, if I need to call the cops, like if this is like literally a crime scene, like if I'm like walking into something. So we finished touring the rest of the homes that we had set to see that day. We were still a little bit scared just because of everything that we saw in that second home. It really just like set us off. And during that time, I still did not hear like one little peep from the listing agent on the second home. Wrap up showings for the day and we go home, and then I finally hear back from the listing agent around 10 p.m. that night, and he basically calls and tells me, and he's like, hey, like, I'm so sorry, that was like actually a movie scene that they like were supposed to set up tomorrow. And I was like, you should have like somehow prefaced that, like, even if it's like the next day, like, you should probably still mention that just in case, because especially when it's like a scary movie scene, like, that's not something that like people are gonna take lightly when they're touring homes and they see like this crazy scary scene out of a movie. I was damn near about to call the cops. I just wish that listing agent would have like prefaced something, or maybe like put it in the note when you like go and schedule your showings, like, hey, just let you know there's gonna be like a movie there. Like, even though it was supposed to be the next day, it's like, maybe get a grip on communication. Like, what happened there? Call and I let my client know that. I'm like, hey, I just want to let you know, like, it's actually a movie scene. Like, don't worry. Like, we are all good on that aspect. But it was still like very, very scary, like walking in and seeing stuff like that. I remember from the first part of the story time when I mentioned that we had 5 homes set to see and that first home almost canceled. I usually get to those homes, the first home that we're set to see, I usually get to that home 10 to 15 minutes earlier than my client to make sure everything's set up. Obviously, I want to be on time. I want to beat them there. So I would have been at that second house all by myself. Again, I'm like, that would have freaked me out even more if I open the door and I see that type of stuff, or I walk down to that basement by myself. Are you kidding me? Like, I would have fainted. I for sure would have fainted. So grateful that we put that first home back on the list, because otherwise I would have been at that second home by myself and it would have been awful. This is my story time. Let me know what you guys think. Let me know what you guys would do if you guys were in my shoes during that situation, because I obviously did not know what the heck I was supposed to do. Now moving forward, every time I have to go into a basement, I do not, unless it's new construction. Even then, my heart is like pounding out of my chest to go down there by myself. And I get so terrified, because you just never know. Like, you really just never know. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you guys next time.
The day has come where I finally go upstairs and tell my neighbors to please be quiet and to stop your kids from jumping and whatever the hell they're doing, because I'm going insane here. This is an all the time thing, and I can't take it anymore. I've barely been here 2 months. I've kept my mouth shut. I can't do it anymore. I just seriously can't. And the only thing that's been keeping me from keeping my mouth shut is that I don't know how they're going to react. But at this point, I don't really care, because I need quiet for a little bit. It's not like I get a single ounce of silence ever. When I'm gone during the day is when they're at school. As soon as I get home, they're home at the same time, and it's this all day fucking long. Running, jumping, crying, all of the above. I understand they're kids, but you know what? You need to tell your kids to be quiet sometimes. Especially when you live in an apartment above people. If you're gonna do this, go live on the fucking bottom floor. I don't care. At that point, like, I could care less. At least you're trying to do something and keeping yourself on the bottom floor so that you're not bothering people below you. But I can't do it anymore. I was just woken up at 2:30 in the morning the other night, and I don't know what they were doing. I couldn't tell you what they were doing. I have video recordings of multiple days of them doing this, and I just can't do it. I took a recording when they woke me up at 2:30 in the morning, and it lasted for over 20 minutes. The only thing that the only thing that kept me in bed, instead of going up there and telling him to be quiet, it's fucking 2:30 in the morning, was that if I were to get up, I would not have been able to fall back asleep, and I was exhausted. So I put a pillow over my head and went to bed that way. Isn't that so lovely? To live in my own home and have to sleep with a pillow over my head because my neighbors are inconsiderate motherfuckers and let their kids do whatever they want. So the day has come. I'm very scared. I'm like scared so much, but my anger is overpowering my scaredness. I don't know if you can hear that, but I'm done. I texted my neighbors who I became friends with when I first moved in, and I asked if this is how it happens with them, and they said yes. So it's the building. I get it. It's the building. It's not your fault, but it is your fault when you let your kids run and jump in an apartment building. That is just not acceptable in my opinion. At least at all hours of the fucking day. Guys, I'm so angry. I can't concentrate on school. I literally live at my school during the week to get away from this so I can actually get my assignments done. But during the weekend, I have nowhere to go. And yeah, I know, I could go to a library, I could go to a fast food joint like McDonald's. I shouldn't have to, is my point. This is my home. I pay to live here just like you do. You do not own this motherfucking building, so tell your kids to sit down and shut the fuck up for just a little bit. Please. So, I'm gonna video and see how it goes. Guys, I'm so scared. I'm like actually so scared. This is what their apartment floor looks like.
Hello?
Is there an adult here?
Yes.
Can I speak to them?
Police are my daughter.
Hi.
No,
I'm your neighbor from downstairs.
Hi.
Hi, I was just wondering if you could try not to let everybody jump on the floor. It's shaking my whole apartment.
Sorry.
It's okay. I just wanted to
I
ask.
try. We yell at them all the time.
I know they're kids. I work with kids, so like I try to understand, but it's a lot, and I'm trying to get schoolwork done.
Okay, sorry.
It's okay, thank you. Okay, I'm shaking. He was chill about it. I had to whisper because they can hear through the walls. I'm shaking, my whole body's shaking. Oh my god, hold on. Guys, I'm like, I've never had to do that before. That was so scary. There's a lot of kids up there, little kids. And I stayed there for a second because I heard him start talking to his kids. He's like, all right, you guys, we got to get you down. Like, you can't be doing this no more. We can't get no more complaints. You guys got to sit down. And I tried to get it on video. I don't know if you could hear it because it's very light. But if they keep doing this, like, I have video footage multiple days, different times of the day. I have the one from 2:30 in the morning. Like, if they keep doing this, at least I can say I went up there and I asked them to stop it. And if they don't, then that's not my problem. Okay, I don't want to get anybody kicked out. That's not my intention, but I would like to live in my own home and not feel like I'm going crazy from the constant noise because I don't have kids. I don't want kids. And if I did, I would be considerate enough to not let them run and jump at all hours of the day. They're already back at it. They're slamming doors and shit. I just can't do this anymore. Like, I need to get my schoolwork done and stuff and whatever. So if this continues, I'm just going to continue getting video footage and I'm going to send it to my apartment complex and I'm going to be like, we need to figure something out because this is not a way for me to live. If I need to move to a different, like, apartment, I will. But I don't feel like that's the right option because all of the walls are like this. So what if the next apartment I go to is just the same? So, like, you either need to tell them to move down to the bottom floor. They're running. Or something, because I can't do this anymore. Or we're going to terminate my lease and I'm not going to owe you shit, because this is ridiculous. I pay you guys a lot to live here and I'm not going to deal with this. Whew, I'm so nervous. Okay, well, there was that. Alrighty, so I did not expect that video that I posted to get that much attraction. My videos usually get like 100, maybe 200 views, and half of them are like people I know. So this is a first for me. I didn't really feel like I needed to make this video, but I am doing it anyway to try to help people because I'm still getting a lot of attraction on the video and a lot of comments. And a lot of comments are 50-50 on they agree with me or they very, very, very highly do not agree with me. And I just chose a random comment, so I'm so sorry if you think I'm directing this at you specifically. I'm not. I just wanted to preference that I do not expect the kids upstairs to sit down 24/7. I do not expect the parents to tie them to chairs and make them be quiet all the time. That is not at all what I expect. Not at all. Like I said in the other video, I work with kids. I've worked with kids for years. I understand they have energy and they're crazy little kids. That's fine. But they shouldn't be running and jumping and screaming for hours on end. That's not normal behavior. And I know we all have different opinions, and that's okay. You don't have to agree with me. That's just my opinion. And it's a lot of other people's opinions too. And when you live in an apartment, yes, I will deal with a lot of that stuff, but I won't deal with all of it. And I didn't want to go straight to management about this because I didn't think that was fair. I wanted to give the parents a fair shot to try to, you know, find quiet times for their kids. But it's also not just me that complained about them. I do want to preference that. A lot of their neighbors have complained. And I don't know if you heard in the other video, but he did say he can't get any more complaints, otherwise they're going to have to move. And I don't know about you, but that's saying something to me. So there's that. Now saying that, I would also like the preference for a lot of people coming at me about that's just apartment living and get used to it and things like that. I've lived in apartments my whole life, even when I was a child myself. And again, I understand it's going to be kind of crazy. It's going to be loud. There's going to be kids running and jumping. But my mom made sure that I was at least quiet for a certain amount of time. Also, that noise is not them. That's my laundry, if you can hear that. So let me go fix that real quick. Okay, my washer is leaking water, so I'm waiting for maintenance. So if my door knocks, this is why. Anyway, my mom was a little strict though. And so the amount of time that she had me sit still might have been a little too much. I never expect that from anybody else. Also, when I'm working with children, no, I do not expect them to sit down the entire time. We get up, we play, we run, we jump, we do all the stuff that kids need to do. But there is a time to play, and there is a time to sit down, work, relax, and be quiet. I'm not expecting that to be 5 hours. I was just hoping for like an hour. And if it doesn't hit an hour, then it's fine. These comments are crazy. It's not. And I also made another video, a couple videos before the one that was posted about going and asking my neighbors to be quiet, explaining that I understand kids are loud and crazy and stuff. But I also know that with social media, people just like to watch that 6-minute video that I made and go from there and just expect that they know everything else about the situation and everything else about me and say I'm a bad person, that I need to move and I shouldn't have asked them to be quiet and all that stuff. But why shouldn't I have been able to ask them to be quiet? I don't see how that's a bad thing at all. If they would have said no, then that's tough shit. I would have just went to management about that. I'm allowed to complain about things. Just like I would expect somebody under me to complain if I was blasting music all the time, because it's just not right when you live in an apartment complex. Yes, live your life. You don't need to walk around like a freaking mouse, but also know that people do live in the same building as you, and you do need to try to be a little bit quieter. That's all I was saying. And for people saying to get a sound machine or to play music or all that good stuff, I do sleep with a fan on every single night. And then also, I don't want to have to play music all the time, because for me, when I'm trying to work on schoolwork, I can't concentrate when like there's sound in the background. And yeah, that's just me. I do have noise canceling headphones for those that said to get that, but this apartment building, everything is so thin, like the walls, the floors, the doors, all that stuff, that my noise canceling headphones still pick up a lot of the noise that's going on. Now, this is all I'm going to say about this stuff. I really am just ignoring all the comments, to be honest, because my opinion's not changing and it's not making me feel bad or anything like that. I did what I did. I asked them to be quiet, and to a lot of your surprise, they actually have been quiet. It's not perfectly quiet, but that's not what I was asking for. There's times when it's quiet and I can actually concentrate or even just relax from a busy day, and it worked. So for all those saying that it's not going to work and that I need to move and all that stuff, you were wrong. It did work. They were very nice about it, and that's about it. So thanks everybody for watching, commenting. Hopefully this helps a little bit, because y'all were coming at me a little too hard. Okay? A little too hard for not knowing all of the information. So thanks.
Story of how my Apple Watch might have saved my life. Okay? A little bit of backstory. For about a year before this, I was having these really weird dizzy spells, and I tried to, I talked to my doctor about it, and he just kept saying, eat more protein, because at the time I was in a pretty heavy weight loss. I think I was probably down, well, at the time of this, I was down almost 70 pounds. So I was heavy at the gym, taking pre-workout, and just hustling at the gym. So, and they just said, eat more protein, okay? Well, the night before this happened, I took my pre-workout, and I went to the gym, and I got my heart rate up to 170. What I didn't know at the time is that my heart rate never came back down. So when I woke up the next morning, I woke up to my watch going bzz, 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 just kept going off and off and off, one after another. And I was like, oh, that's weird. I get up and I black out and I fall over and I just black out on the bed, get up. I was like, oh, well, that's not right. My heart rate's at 160. And I didn't know what to do. So I was good. I wasn't going to pass out anymore. I was like, okay, well, yeah, I'm going to go to work. So I drive myself to work, and when I get to work, everyone's freaking out. No, you should probably go to the hospital. You should probably go to the doctor, yada, yada, yada. So I call my normal doctor, and I get, one of the nurses or whatever. I was like, hey, my heart rate is 160. My watch notified me a bunch of times. Can you guys see me today? Or what do I need to do? And they said, yeah, come at 2 p.m. So I work my full shift, and then I drive my old butt all the way across town to my doctor's office, at which point they run an EKG on me and tell me I need to go to the hospital. So I get in my car in tears, drive myself to the hospital, to the ER. At this point, I'm calling my parents, hey, I'm getting sent to the hospital, my heart's doing something weird. And I get to the hospital and they immediately take me back. I tell them, hey, my doctor sent me here, my heart rate's high, like, you go to the ER, they immediately take you, they like check your blood, they check your heart rate, whatever, and then immediately take me back, hook me up to an EKG, and start working to try and get my heart rate to come down. I think it was about an hour and a half I was there before like my mom got there. But in that time they were trying something maneuver. I don't remember what it's called, but they were literally like having me blow on things and flipping me upside down. Okay. That wasn't working. They tried like IV medication. That wasn't working. About an hour and a half in, they're like, okay, we are going to give you this medication and it pauses your heart. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. And so they give me this medication, and the only way I can describe this feeling is like, you know, those like cement rollers? Okay, well, it feels like that's going over your body from the top of your head down to your toes. It doesn't necessarily hurt, but all you can manually do with your body is breathe. Weirdest experience in my life. It didn't work. Okay, so they doubled down on it. They try it again. Didn't work. At this point, I've probably been at the hospital for 3-4 hours. Okay, and at this point, I'm sobbing. My boyfriend's down in St. George, like down 4 hours away. He's driving up, and they're like, okay, we're gonna shock your heart back into rhythm. We're gonna ask your family to leave. We're gonna have a team here just in case your heart doesn't start back up. Yada yada yada. Like they're everyone's talking at me. I'm like sobbing. They're trying to hook me back up to IVs, and literally sobbing. I'm like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this. Like I'm not prepared for this today. I was just at work a couple hours ago. Sobbing. And they're like, we've done everything we can. This is the next step. And I look over and my heart rate went down. I was like, wait, please don't shock me. My heart rate came down. So my heart rate did come down, and they released me with a medication that was supposed to like slow my heart rate or something. And they said, hey, you'll hear from a cardiologist in like the next 2 weeks, and sent me home. And that was just the first night of the next 5-6 months of my life. So anyways, that is how my Apple Watch may have saved my life. Don't know if you know this, but having your heart rate at 170 for over 24 hours is not great for you. But yeah, if you want to know more, let me know. But that is the story about how my Apple Watch saved my life. Part 2 on how my Apple Watch might have saved my life. Okay? And if you didn't watch the last one, go watch the last one. So at this point, I am heading home from the hospital. I end up staying at a hotel with my boyfriend that is close to the hospital, just in case I need to go back to the hospital. And after this happened, my heart rate would go up for hours at a time, and then it would come back down, and then it would go up for hours at a time, and then come back down. And it felt like I was just living in this constant state of like a panic attack, which was not fun. So come Monday, I believe I did get the call. They were like, hey, we're like 2 weeks out, something on seeing a cardiologist. I was like, oh geez, okay, whatever. And that was it. They ended up calling me back and saying, hey, we can fit you in like tomorrow or something. I was like, perfect. So the next day I go into the doctor, and they diagnose me with SVT,
which is supraventricular tachycardia, something, lots of words. And they're like, hey, so we need to do an ablation. An ablation is something that you go in through your main artery in your leg, and they go in and they pretty much just cauterize the piece of your heart that's sending off all this electricity that's not supposed to. So you have a little part right here that sends off electricity. My heart just started to also put off electricity from this side for whatever reason it wanted to do that. I was on a medication that was supposed to be like keeping my heart rate down, and they scheduled the surgery for like a week or so later, maybe 2 weeks. And so me and my mom, we go into the hospital. I had been under anesthesia before, but not since I was like a child, and I got my tonsils and adenoids out, so I was freaking out. But I get into the hospital, I get all gowned up, yada yada. I was nervous as all get out. I go in to the surgery, and then I wake up. Here's me after I woke up from said surgery. And then I get told, hey, this surgery that was supposed to be 99% effective, you're the 1%. So you actually have something called ASVT, I don't even remember, but just pretty much means my little node is on the other side of my heart, and so they weren't able to reach it. They said, hey, we're going to put you on another medication. This one is going to make your heartbeat regular, and you're going to take it with the one that's supposed to keep your heart rate lower, and we have to wait a couple months before we can even do another surgery. So I buckle up. I take these medications on a day-to-day basis. I still have my little swings of my heart. And to say that the next like 3 months literally was just me living in a constant state of like a panic attack. And then I met with my cardiologist again a couple months later, and they're like, okay, here are your options. You can stay on these heart medications, which, by the way, one of the side effects was heart failure, or we can try and do the ablation again. It's like, yeah, let's try and do the ablation again. So they got me on the books for like a month out. I think at this point we're like in July. And this all started happening about a year ago right now. So we went from like February, March to July. And we are going very long. So tune in for part 3. Part 3 on how my Apple Watch might have saved my life. If you don't want to watch the last one, go watch them. They're up. So at this point, my first initial ER visit was back in like February or March, and we are now in like July, August. I don't remember when it was. But I had stopped working out. I was terrified of getting my heart to raise, which is kind of why I'm now trying to lose weight again. But I was mortified, like I was terrified to have my heart rate go up. So by the time I was able to go in for my second surgery, I was super duper nervous. I remember sitting in there like, hey, what are our options if this does not work? Because I'm already the 1%. I don't need to be the 1% again. And they were like, well, we can discuss that like if we need to, yada, yada, yada. And so I get ready for the surgery, and they tell me that I'm going to go under anesthesia for the initial like going in. They will wake me up once they find it. Like I had to be awake for my heart rate to elevate, and it had to be in an active state of SVT in order for them to do the ablation. So I remember like waking up in the middle, like you're on this like metal thing that's actually quite, like, they've got memory foam on it. Anyways, and there's like a team around you. I'm connected to all these things. There's this huge screen next to me, and I remember them like trying to make conversation, and I remember they were talking like about pizza or something, and I think I remember saying like, hey, have you ever tried Italian Village? It's really good. Also, if you live in Utah and you have not had Italian Village, you need to go get yourself a pizza bender. But I remember that, but I also remember saying, hey, like, my leg really hurts, because they go in through your main arteries in your legs. I was like, hey guys, my leg really hurts, and they're like, no, it's okay. And I was like, no, my leg really hurts. And so they did something, and then they bring me back to my room, and being out of anesthesia this time, because I was awake in the room, was like a whole different thing. And then you had to wait like so long before you could even like sit up, because you're in your main arteries, you have a risk of like bleeding. So it was this whole thing. And then an hour or two, maybe 3 passed, and the doctor came back in and was like, hey, so we think it worked. And I was like, we think? They said, this is like, I've never seen a case like yours. I'm like, this is great. This is not what I want to hear. They said it was just in such a weird spot, and it like was giving us the hardest time to try and get it, yada, yada, yada. We think it worked. We'll follow up with you in a couple months. Cool. So yeah, I left the hospital, and I did not have another SVT episode after that. But that is the story about how my Apple Watch might have saved my life, because I had been having those dizzy spells for like a year, and I didn't know what they were. And if my watch wouldn't have like freaked out at me that morning, I probably would not have gone to the hospital. So yeah, SVT is actually very, very common, and most people find out they have it from the ages of like 18 to like 26. So if you have weird dizzy spells, go get your heart checked. Also, they cannot diagnose SVT unless you are in an active episode. So my doctor did tell me a story about a lady who was actually committed to the psych ward because she thought she was like so anxious, and turns out she also had SVT. So if you have high anxiety and a high heart rate, weirdly, maybe check it out. It took me a long time to get back into the gym. I still haven't fully gotten to where I was. I was going like 7 days a week, but somewhere in me still has a fear of raising my heart rate. So anyways, that's my little story time, and kind of how I got into this mess, because I also gained 20 pounds in the meantime. Okay, thanks, bye.
Today was one of those days where I woke up and all I wanted to do with my outfit was tell the world, I am girl, I have the choo-choo, I get period. No, I don't, because I have IUD. But I used to, because I am girl.
In high school, I never went to any parties. I was never invited to any parties because I was weird as fuck. Didn't really have friends. Like, I had friends in class and, like, a couple friends I would hang out with, but there was a period of time where I didn't hang out with anyone for, like, at least 6 months straight. And I was perfectly content with that because I was going through, like, hella depression and, like, there was a lot wrong with me. Anyways, I wouldn't have been a good friend, so it's fine. But what... as I was saying, I went to one party in high school. I went to like parties and stuff after my senior year, but that was post graduation. I went to one singular party during my high school career, and it was so bad. I showed up in a homecoming dress because there was like this like casual dance before, but no one went, and everyone changed for the people who had gone, so I'm the only one there. I'm in these, like, Steve Madden silver-studded heels. You're lying. And this, like, green mini dress. Oh my god, I look so stupid. And it was, like, February. I don't know what I was doing. Eventually, I felt, like, really embarrassed. And, like, in the shoe pile of all, like, the shoes at the party, it was all just, like, Uggs, Converse, Adidas, you know, whatever. And then my Steve Madden heels. Oh boy. Mind you, was not invited to this party. My friend got extended an invite from a guest there. If you're asking, oh, did I drink? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I was afraid of that. And the fact that people were drinking at that age was actually insane to me. I get there and people are like, what the fuck is this shit? They were like, what the fuck is she doing here? Which, granted, if I was at a party with those same people now, they would probably say the same thing. But it was just especially weird at the time because I was not really friends with anyone there. Eventually, the host of the party, shout out this girl, she was so nice, gave me a Kanye West tour t-shirt to change into that I really wanted to keep, but I ended up giving it back, which was nice to have something to change into because I looked so stupid. And I remember someone saying to my face, they were like, what are you doing here? And I literally just started, this is so embarrassing. I literally called my dad because I was like 15 and I didn't drive myself there because I didn't have a license. And I was like, please pick me up. And I was like, they were drinking and they were bullying me. And bro, I didn't say they were bullying me. I just said they were not nice to me, and they weren't. But like, God, even to this day, that like sends shivers down my spine. When I'm in the area of that house, I'm like, what the fuck is wrong with me? Like, why did I go to that? It was so embarrassing, like to this day. But yeah, that was the only time I ever went to a party in high school, and I see now why I wasn't invited to them. But
friend, why did you say it like that? Wait, ooh.
Good morning, y'all. Get ready with me while I tell y'all a little story. So, today is March the 5th, and March the 5th has always been a very emotional day for me. So, on March the 5th, 12 years ago, Romy was 5 years old. And that year, it was Ash Wednesday. I'll never forget it as long as I live. And the girls had went to preschool. Romy and Taylor, they're 4 months apart. So my mom kept them in the afternoon. So they had went to preschool, and they were getting ready to go to church with my dad. Me and mom were cleaning up the snack. I had just gotten there, and we told them to go out to the garage and wait on Paul. So as we're like cleaning up everything and getting it ready, now at 5 years old, we probably shouldn't have told them to go outside and wait on my dad, which was in the garage, just right there. But we did. And all of a sudden, I heard this crying, and I saw the garage door open, and I saw Romy standing there, and all I saw was her face just hanging, and you could see her teeth, and she just stood there, and she said, "Mama," and Taylor came in just screaming, crying. So I grabbed Romy up, I put her to my chest right here, and I told Mom, I said, we have to get to the hospital now. So Taylor is like screaming and crying and telling us that Romy had been bitten by a dog. So we didn't get the whole story at the time because we were spastic. Like, I didn't know there was blood in her hair, the back of her ear was flopped, her face was hanging open, her neck. I mean, the most traumatic moment of my life. So I took her and I held her like to my chest. Mom got the car. I didn't have my purse. I didn't have my license. I had nothing. And Taylor and Tuff were there, which was my sister's kids. They got in the car with us, and we went straight to the hospital. As soon as we got to the hospital, of course, since it was a dog, we had to file a police report, and it had happened at my parents' home. So, and of course they had to take the dog and have it tested for rabies and all kinds of stuff, which was a no-brainer for us. So it was my parents' lab who they had had for a long time, and he was a yard dog, and we weren't sure if he was up to date on all his shots or not. He was just an old lab yard dog. So, I mean, we're getting the story from 5-year-olds, right? Like, how do you know what the right story is? So Romy really was speechless at the time. Was that the dog was eating, and Romy pulled him while he was eating by his collar, and then he attacked her. So, I mean, yes, she provoked that, but she was 5 years old. She didn't know any different, right? Keep getting hung on this. So anyways, we get to the hospital. I had called my husband at the time, which was Romy's dad, and he met us there. He, of course, started crying. I was like, don't cry. You gotta keep it together for her. So they take us, well, they were gonna fly us to Birmingham, and we were ready to. She had 267 stitches from here to here. It was 3 layers of stitches. Then she had stitches in her head and on her ear and on her neck. And it just so happened to be my best friend's birthday, so I will never forget her birthday. And she, of course, dropped everything and showed up at the hospital. She's one of those friends that we can go from not talking for half of a year and meet up, and it's like we never missed a beat. So she was there for me. I'll never forget that. You don't forget the people who were there for you. So we had to blend up Romy's food so she could eat because she couldn't chew. I mean, this had to heal, you know. And she was so strong during it. I mean, Romy never cried at all. She never cried. When we got home from the hospital, this little small town that I live in came together for me like no other. Like, I cannot even explain it to y'all. Like, I had meals cooked for me every single night. There was somebody over here helping me the whole time. The day I came home from the hospital, we came home from the hospital, I broke down crying. And I cried for a week straight. It's like our bodies hold it in, and then when we have to, but then you have to release it. Like, it's a traumatic feeling and it's out of your control, and you feel like the worst mom for letting it happen. So my advice to anybody who has animals and has small children is talk to them, explain to them that when a dog is eating, you leave them alone, you don't touch them. And Romy, the Miss in our town, like, she won Miss, and so her platform is called Positive Prevention, and it teaches young children how to have pet safety. And she wrote a little book, and she goes to all the classrooms, and you wouldn't believe the people in town that come up to me and are like, oh my gosh, my child talked about Romy coming, and she brings Ralphie with her, and y'all, it's just so fun, and I go with her, and I absolutely love it. But something positive, it's called Positive Prevention, positive, but something positive definitely came out of her tragedy. So we just have to take that and run with it and remember, but we have to teach our kids to be so safe around animals. I know it's fun, like cute when you see these babies laying on these big dogs, but my gosh, they're still an animal no matter what. They're going to protect themselves. They're going to defend themselves as they should, but they don't understand that this is a child who's hurting them. So you have to teach your children to give them their space. When they're sleeping, leave them alone. When they're eating, leave them alone. If I could go back, I would definitely teach my children that, but you know, it took this for us to see it. So March 5th was a significant time in our life. I learned a lot. Like I said, if I could go back, oh my gosh, but wow. So this was Romy. I got out the picture. This was Romy when she came home from the hospital. I don't know if y'all can see her or not. Okay, I quit work for 6 months to take care of her because I didn't want anybody else touching her. But our little town was the best, and I'll never forget it. I'll never forget the people who showed up, who brought stuff. I told my client yesterday, I said, tomorrow is when Romy was attacked by the dog, and I said, and I remember you coming over here. I remember you cooking us a meal, and then you blending up Romy her separate meal. I remember those people. You remember the people that show up. So I hope y'all have a good day. I'm gonna finish my hair. I've rambled on long enough, but please, if you have animals and small children, if you talk to anybody who works in the hospital, for some reason, it's the weirdest thing, but this time of the year is the highest that they have dog attacks. I don't know what it is. It's like something in the air, but please, y'all, please teach your kids the safety of dogs. It's really you teaching them. I mean, you teaching your kids, because kids don't know and animals don't know. There's nothing you can do to teach your animal to be safer around a kid. You have to teach your kid to be safe around the animal. Okay, y'all have a good day. I'm sorry for rambling. It's an emotional day for me.